We're good?
So we got.
All right. I'm going to call this meeting to order for the Rankin Planning and Zoning Board. If I could ask for a roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Jim Head,
I am here.
Tom Wilson,
Here.
Eddie Madden is here, Kelly Durham,
Here.
Roy Griffin, Eric Hills,
Here.
Mona Underwood,
Here.
Terry Lewis,
Here.
Lolly Watley,
Here.
Sherry Swagger.
Here.
Thank you. If I could ask everybody to stand for the invocation and pledge. Anybody want to do the invocation today? All right, I'll do it myself. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you again for the blessings that you've given this country, and particularly this town of Rankin. We ask you to give us the wisdom today to make the best decisions as long as it's in your will for this town of Rankin. We also ask you to continue to look after our military and for our other leaders, government leaders, particularly federal leaders and our president. And again, give them the wisdom to make the best decisions for this country. We ask all this in the name of the Lord. Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. I believe everybody did get their packages, right? Looks like everybody's good. And then, the agenda, we haven't had any changes to the agenda since the packages went out? No? Then I'll ask for a motion, if everybody's okay with the agenda.
I move we accept the agenda as written.
Motion on the table for, accepting the agenda, and I have a second.
I second it.
Seconded, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Okay, next order of business is approval of the minutes for the meeting dated April 18th, 2023. And again, everybody has that in their package. Everybody okay? Anybody see any changes or additions that we need to make? Corrections? If we're good with that, then I'll call for a motion.
I make a motion we accept.
Motion on the table for accepting the minutes from April 18th,
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Let me get this right here. There you go. You ready? All right, first order of new business, an application has been filed by the Effingham County Industrial Development Authority requesting a final site plan approval for a 670,000 square foot warehouse. The property is owned by Effingham County Industrial Development Authority. The 465.36 acre property is located at 777 Old Augusta Road and is zoned PUD, Planned Unit Development. The parcel number is R2760001. Do we have anybody here representing them today? If you would, give us your name, please, and just kind of give us a rundown of what you're looking to do today.
Good evening, I'm Brant Herndon. I'm the CEO of the Effingham County Industrial Development Authority.
Could you give me your name one more time?
Yes, sir. Brant, B-R-A-N-D-T, it's a strange name. B-R-A-N-D-T, Herndon, H-E-R-N-D-O-N.
Okay.
So thank you for your time today. So yes, this the Grandview property we bought from the county, I guess 2 or 3 years ago, And of course, it had already been annexed into the city of Lincoln, so that's actually where our office is also. So we've been excited about this property. We were waiting for the right company to come, and Saywan, we worked with them for half a year after the announcement of Hyundai, and they're one of the top 5 or 6 suppliers for Hyundai, so they're considered a tier 1 supplier. And so they're going to build the chassis, the frames for the vehicle. They're going to produce about half the frames. A competitor named Ogden will be building the other half, and they located in Bullitt County. So of the top suppliers, when it comes to capital investment jobs, the one of the biggest, only Movis is bigger, so it's about 740 jobs that'll be created, 300 million in capital investment. So good paying jobs, manufacturing, which is what we're all interested in trying to locate here, or at least that's my focus at the Development Authority, is manufacturing jobs. So it's going to be an unusual building. They have a facility in LaGrange, Georgia, so it'll be kind of a copy of what they have in LaGrange. And they are very well received in LaGrange. They're going to be a good corporate citizen. But they're going to have some stamping. In the stamping, they're going to have 60-foot ceilings there, so they're going to have 4 to 6, I think 6 stamping operations. And so, anyway, it's not going to be a traditional warehouse as we've seen around here. This is going to look a little different, but it gives us the opportunity to move forward with the balance of Grandview, because as you mentioned, Grandview's 465 acres, about 350 is uplands, and they're going to impact about 80 acres. So it leaves us 2 or 3 other large pads to try to attract either some other Hyundai suppliers or just manufacturing in general. So we're excited about the property, we're excited about the development, we're excited about Saywan. And so anyway, we just want to give you a little bit of update, and any questions you may have, I'll be more than happy to answer about Saywan, and I'll turn it over to Hunter with Hussey Gaze, our engineer, to answer any of the technical questions. But any questions you may have related to Saywan, and by the way, that they want to be in operation by the end of 2024. Because as you know and heard, Hyundai wants to produce cars first quarter of 2025. So all the suppliers have to be ready to go by the 4th quarter of 2024. Or as they say, they're only as strong as their weakest supplier. So Saywan's not going to be the weakest supplier. We've committed that we would do it from the Development Authority, everything we can do to make sure they're successful. And if you've been over to Old Augusta Road, you probably see the clearing, the 80 acres has been cleared. So we beat the timeline, it's cleared, we're waiting on them, and they're gonna pick the general contractor today or tomorrow. So things will pick back up real quickly when it comes to actually, hopefully going vertical. Of course, that's the reason why we're here tonight. But it is a tight time frame, but it can be met. Again, just excited about the opportunity, and I hope the city of Lincoln's very excited about it too, because this is something we all can be proud and excited about.
Okay. I noticed, I just want to see if I can make sure we're clear. The agenda calls for a final site plan, but we've never seen a preliminary, and it looks like some stuff is missing for this to be done as a final today.
I'm going to turn it over to Hunter.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
And this can be
Yeah.
addressed to you or,
Jerry.
yeah, or you guys.
We did send in a final site plan last week to be a part of the agenda package.
Uh-huh.
And we received the final state comments from the Georgia Soil and Water Commission late last week. Everything was finalized today. There will be hard copies of the full package tomorrow, but it was my understanding that only the overall site plan was needed for this meeting.
Yes, we're trying to work to accommodate the timeline. As you heard, it's a very tight timeline to get it approved so that they can start construction. So we've been asked to find some flexibility, and we've done that. And you're correct, you haven't seen a preliminary. Wally and I were just talking about maybe there's a better way to phrase that on the agendas, because honestly, a lot of what we're starting to see now, they're just pairing that preliminary and final together and just coming for a site plan approval. They're not coming for, you're not going to see very many preliminaries anymore. they're just gonna come for one site plan approval.
Why is that? Why are we eliminating that part of the process?
I think a lot of people, at the time that they're ready to come forward, they've done so much that they're almost, or, you know, pretty close to final, and so they'd rather just go ahead and get everything completed that they need to,
Mhm.
and be able to just come one time through that process. It saves them some time, it saves them some money, and if they can show y'all a pretty final development, then it also saves you some time as well.
Okay, well, in the past, we did preliminary, and usually preliminary was, I would say, 95% ready to go. There was usually some comments from engineering, that may need to be addressed. Sometimes it's paperwork issues or some plat issues or so forth, and it's usually fairly minor issues, and we do the preliminary, and then we come back to do the final. And at final, we always look to have everything ready to go, before we make a recommendation to city council as, you know, something that we would be looking to approve. So I don't, and in the past, we've also done final, preliminary and final on the same day, but again, it would have to be a full package. And what I'm seeing, just what I see, and of course, the board, you can ask other questions as well, but I'm looking for a landscape plan, and I don't see anything about that. And that is one of the things that I think is important, particularly because this fronts, Old Augusta Road. You're gonna be coming around that curve, and that's what you're gonna be looking at, and I don't see anything on any landscaping at all. Do we have anything on that?
Well, what I would say to that is that in speaking with the city manager, he believed that in the past, the documents that were provided to the board kind of went over and above what the board was tasked with looking at through what's required by the ordinance. And so we were asked to pare back what was being given so that we were really focused on that site plan portion of it.
Well, wouldn't
So
the site
certainly
plan-
if you want
would-
to see
I mean,
it-
I'm not sure I understand. Wouldn't the site plan include the landscaping? I mean, that is part of the site plan. I don't understand why.
Or at least
I'm
the
a little
buffers,
confused.
at least the buffers, because buffers are part of the ordinance.
Right, buffers is a big thing.
And we need to make sure that there's clear buffers.
And this is the first we've heard of that, so,
And I'm happy to have that conversation with
Yeah.
the city manager and find out if that can be included as well. So I know that we have included them, you know, in the past with some of the site plan approvals that have come to you.
and I know this is a bit different project. It's a much larger project than most of the ones we look at.
And it's important, I
But-
don't think
Mhm.
anybody's denying that it's
Yeah.
important, we need to work hard on it, but.
Right, and again, I don't wanna be the one to hold it up for no reason, but at the same time, I don't wanna push it through just because they're in a rush. You know, I understand time is of the essence, believe me, but that's a concern I have.
Well, if I could go back a step on this, even going back to building, and you guys could actually, because this is the first time we've seen this at all, so I'm more curious about what's going to go on inside that building, because I know frames are metal steel. They're gonna be manufactured, is there gonna be any water waste coming out of that? What does this stamping mean? I mean, is it going to be any, fumes or exhaust or smokestacks? I mean, we know nothing about the building, so I mean, we want it, we want it to happen, but we're kind of blindsided by this, so if y'all could just explain a little bit more about what's going on inside this building.
Well, I will tell you, I would say I speak to the water
Yeah,
usage.
please.
It is gonna be solely domestic, water and sewer usage. They don't have, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't have any processed
No process.
water
No water
or
treatment.
wastewater treatment. It's all domestic based on, the demand's based on the 740 employees, build out. So everything's been done based off of that number.
How about cooling towers or things like that would have some impact?
So we're here really more from the civil standpoint.
Mhm.
That's gonna come a little bit later.
No, their facility we toured in LaGrange, as a matter of fact, the city of Lincoln was over there, 2 weeks ago, so the mayor and Jonathan, they were all over there and did the same tour we did. There's not gonna be a paint booth or anything like that. It's a stamping facility. So they bring in rolled steel and it's stamped, and then, they have like about 1,000 robots that do spot welding and things like that, and they're making frames for all the different, there'll be 8 different models built in, Bryan County, so obviously every frame's different, and they're also making frames for other cars. So it's more of just of a stamping facility, more in spot welding, but no, there's no processed water, it's all domestic. It's really more about, these presses are huge, as you can imagine, and, but they mitigate the noise. Of course, my office is right next door, so, it's, but that,
Are they steam run or electric? Or
Electric.
Electric, all electric.
Mhm.
All right,
All electric.
so getting back to the water, the water impact is, would I be fair in saying that the impact of any water consumption or refuse would be mostly because of the employees and not the
That's correct.
manufacturing process?
Yes.
That's correct.
There's no cooling necessary or anything, that kind of thing?
So
like
water
you was-
waste is only for human needs and consumption.
Yes, ma'am.
The majority, I'm sure there's gotta be some, probably some, none
Not much.
for the manufacturing for the most, okay. Well, that's something, okay. And when you said 700 and how many employees?
740.
740.
That's, of course, shift work.
Right, I understand. What about, the other question I had is, a lot of times we also, we always get something from engineering, that's been reviewed from, now would be EOM. Have they been reviewed? And again, unless I missed something, I don't see anything like that in our package.
Well, I think that that's what you spoke to, correct, is that so EOM did review it, they had some things that had to be changed, and those have been changed now, and your final site plan reflects the comments that they made that had to be changed. So we don't have that final hard copy approval from them yet, but,
Okay.
but they did review it. And my understanding now is that they
That's
have.
correct.
that
We
they-
had to get the state comments back, which came in finally late last week, and we've incorporated those. And I finished compiling a response letter to EOM's comments, which like I said, hard copies. I wanted to get them today, but it was having those state comments finally come in late last week delayed us a little bit. But everything's gonna be delivered to y'all's attention tomorrow.
Well, we're here to, I don't mean to sound, I wanna be nice about this, but I'm here tonight. And I feel like we're being bypassed a little bit, so if you'll bear with us, we're just trying to get up to speed with what evidently our city council and they know, because we don't. Because we live in the community with the people, and they're concerned when these things come down the pipe,
Absolutely.
and you know that.
Yes, ma'am.
So we wanna do our due diligence
Right.
too.
That's understandable.
Can I make a suggestion? Maybe tell me what you guys think about this. They've got it down as, I guess it's marked on the thing, it says, it's double X, which means preliminary / final site plan. If we were to consider this today as a preliminary plan, since there are some things that we don't have in our hands, and we were to make a recommendation, if we all feel that way, if the recommendation is for approval as a preliminary, and we send that to city council as, okay, city council can always take our preliminary, and they can always, go for a final if they feel like they've got all the information necessary. Because it sounds like city council and the mayor has got more information than we have right here,
Well,
so.
what about traffic studies? Because
Before we get into that, what do you think of that thought? I wanna go back to your thought on that, but what is your thought? I'm asking for the board.
So preliminary planning, and with the exception of city council, we could do final also, what you trying to say?
Yeah, city council could always take it and go preliminary final right on through. But just like you were saying, Mona, I think it's in our to make sure we're doing our due diligence, we need to have all the information for a final, and we don't have all of that. I might be being a little too cautious, but that's just my thought. Trying to get some feedback from you guys on that.
No, I agree. I think, based on what we have here, we could certainly do preliminary, there's no question about that. But in order to do final, they're gonna have to have all their ducks in a row, and
Right.
if we give final approval and then something comes back and they say, no, it can't happen, we're in a sticky wicket there.
Mhm.
Yeah, so. I agree with
I
that.
mean, I could go with a preliminary, but not a final.
And then that would also
That
let,
would fall back on
let
people who
council
obviously
know
have more
that
information.
we didn't have all the information, but we're not opposed to the idea, we just wanna make sure we have all the information.
I see everybody nodding yes.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
with that being said, let's just assume at this point that it's preliminary. It sounds like the issues that need to be addressed, you already are attacking them. It sounds like you're this close to having it done anyway. And that's why I'm trying to get to a point where we still do our job, but we're not pushing something through that we don't really have all the information. But it sounds like you're this close to having it, and by the time it gets to city council, it looks like you'll be able to have everything good to go for city council, and of course, they're the ones that make the final decision on that. As you know, we're just a recommending body to city council, but we wanna make sure, I mean, our job is to recommend something then with good information.
Right.
Or all the information, accurate and complete information. Well, with that being said, if we're looking at this as preliminary, other questions as far as, traffic or anything else that we might wanna ask?
I'm really concerned about traffic, because I noticed you have 2 lanes in, 2 lanes out. That's going to flood into, well, out looks like it's gonna flood towards the circle, the roundabout. Is that true?
So you talking about the southern or the northern?
I'm not sure which one it's this one, it's the
That-
4-lane road.
So that actually tapers down, so yes, once you get into the site, it widens to, 4 lanes, but it actually tapers down to
1 lane.
1 in and 1 out, right in, right out.
So you can only come out towards the circle.
That's correct.
And that's 528 cars flowing into that circle.
Well, it stays over shifts,
Right.
and then there'll be another access point off the roundabout.
I drive a school bus and Fort Howard Road is crazy. I take pictures and I send them to them constantly. And a semi truck broke down in that circle, traffic backs up for miles, because it's not big enough for a lot. They're going to have to, I think this is going to require the county to change that circle. I would think. So I'm really concerned about that traffic flow out towards that circle, because they can't come out there any other way but into the circle if they're coming out from that. So you're saying there's other ways in and out besides that?
We've got connectivity to the roundabout itself as well.
On the left,
Okay.
over on this side,
Yeah.
which is page, I don't know, what is that page?
I see it.
C2, C25,
Now
C2.5?
that's 2 lanes in and out. I see it.
Mhm.
There's 1 lane in and out.
Yes,
2 lane
yes,
road.
ma'am.
I'm sorry, I meant 2 lane road.
Most of tractor trailer truck, I mean, you're gonna obviously have suppliers coming in with tractor trailer tractor trailer supply. I would assume most of those are gonna be coming in the main entrance there, not the one that's at the roundabout,
That's
that's
correct.
plans?
That's correct.
Okay.
The roundabout was intended to be treated as a secondary.
There'll be,
Okay.
there'll be a guard shack off the right end.
I saw that, yeah.
All right, but it's right in, because this is why I'm asking this question, it's right in, so semi-truck can go, coming from 21, which most of them will probably do, they're
Correct.
going to be able to go right in. But if they're coming out, they're going to, either lane they come out is going to have to hit the traffic.
There'll be no left out of.
And I know I saw 528 cars on here, how many parking spots are there in there for semis? Do you have any idea about that flow?
The flatbeds come in and they unload them. I mean, they come in those big rolled, coils of steel. And so there's not that many flatbeds coming in. And so they unload and then the scrap metal goes out by a container. But it's mostly the trucks, or it's mostly the chassis going out. So I think there's so much metal that comes in. I don't know all the ratios, but, they come in, they unload and they leave.
So you don't see like there's gonna be
And not like a
lots
warehouse.
of semi
No,
truck traffic
no.
in and out of there?
No. It's a, you know, it's a just-in-time type, inventory, so, there's not that much truck, trailer, parking, storage, at all.
Well, I feel like, and this is just assumption that the busier Old Augusta gets, the more people are gonna utilize Fort Howard to get back to 21, they're not gonna wanna get into all the busyness of Old Augusta. So Fort Howard's gonna become more and more
Well-
saturated with traffic, so.
I know, of course, the county's gonna they're gonna make improvements on Old Augusta Road with roundabouts and hopefully eventually the widening. I mean, obviously, the right of way's already been purchased and, I mean, so hopefully, and say one's asked about the widening of Old Augusta Road and hopefully with T-Splosh, if it gets passed, maybe that will be included in T-Splosh. So the goal is hopefully, Old Augusta gets widened all the way up to the traffic circle.
The idea being Old Augusta would have 2 lanes each direction, similar to what 21 has.
Because remember, we still have 250 acres to develop, and so we, you know, it's important that, but the good news is the county, I think they're planning from 21 and moving up to like Chimney. That seems to be the break point, and then depending on how Grandview develops out, that would be the next, and really how Ceylon, you know, how the traffic flows there too.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of development on Fort Howard already.
Fort Howard.
I mean, on Old Augusta.
Yeah, Old Augusta, yeah, I know.
Old
Yeah.
Augusta.
Yeah, Old Fort Howard too,
But
but,
Old Augusta, yeah.
yeah, especially industrial, south of Chimney.
Right, Chimney Road.
That
yeah.
needs to be addressed first.
Yeah.
Just like roughly counted, it looks like about 95 spots. I mean, it's hard to count everyone, but there's about 95 truck spots. That sounds like, I mean, since you're not a warehouse, this is
Right.
a manufacturing facility, it sounds like that. And I've also noticed, I kind of, when I was reviewing this, I noticed, because there's also another area you could easily put in more truck parking if
Yeah,
necessary.
they're only, let's see, the site's 80 acres, but they're impacting, I mean, what's the site actually sit on? I mean, the facility and the trucks, probably what, 50 or 60 of the 80? I mean, they kind of mirror this like the LaGrange plant. You know, you can Google Earth and see, and you can see their property, how they cleared it. They like, you know, to have some buffer in the back in case they were to expand. I mean, we work with them, give, you know, more acreage than what they really needed.
Mhm. Okay.
Well, and I didn't know, because I know in fairness to this group, I know that most days you can go down Fort Howard Road, and you might see 2 or 3 semis at Georgia Pacific, which you don't see a lot. There's not a ton of traffic coming in with Georgia Pacific that you see just going by, so, they time it pretty well, so I didn't know if this would be similar.
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, you know, because this is kind of the world I live in. I mean, when it comes to the warehousing, I mean, obviously they're trying to stage behind the rush hour, and that's when I mostly see the trucks, because I'm on Old Augusta and 21 all the time, and then, you know, and hopefully that will remain the same, because there's no reason for 18-wheeler to get stuck in, you know, traffic in the morning. They're not making any money. They're waiting, you know, so they're usually coming in at that 9 o'clock. But there's no doubt about it, there's been an increase, and will be a continuing increase in traffic. There's no denying that.
Oh, from the public, is there anybody, yes, from the public that would like to make a comment?
I appreciate actually all the feedback that I'm hearing.
Would you,
from all
I'm
of
sorry to interrupt you, would you mind giving me your name?
My name's Lori Eichman, and I live here in Rankin,
Okay.
Island.
And will you come forward to the, just so I can pick you up?
It's interesting, we came tonight not specifically about this issue, but it directly correlates to the bigger issue, and I appreciated one of the comments that you made, that actually both of you made, and that so many things have changed in the planning office that by the time it comes to you for changes to zoning or contingencies, things like that, when you guys are recommending then to city council, the problem we're having as citizens is that city council is telling us, there's nothing we can do about it if it's legal, planning and zoning has already approved it, and we gotta wash our hands of it. And so when things come that don't have preliminaries and they're just thrown at you with finals, or if they are pushed through because the moneymakers are in a hurry, then the people that are impacted in the community are really struggling to get ahead of it and come and give any feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, because we, number one, don't have a site that's updated since 2017. So we, as citizens, aren't looking at all the most current ordinances and things. when we are going to the city council meetings, they're like, oh, well, planning and zoning has already pushed it through, there's nothing we can do about it, we can't tell them no. And we feel like we're never getting an opportunity to see these preliminaries with the current laws and ordinances to help make an educated decision for our community. And that's very frustrating. So your statement that you are feeling a little blindsided is how we're feeling when we finally get to city council, because we don't have good ordinances to look at, and you're getting half information, being told to just go ahead and push it through, it's fine. And I'm all about Rankin growing safely, and in a way that is appropriate for all of the families that we have here. We have a unique community where it's still safe for children to ride buses and our elderly to live. And although I'm not at all, opposed to commerce, industry-wise or others, a lot of things are getting pushed through on the planning side, coming to you kind of half done, and then city council is telling us, well, there's nothing we can do about it, sorry, planning and zoning, pushed it through. So I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you taking the time to look at this and say, let's ask about that traffic, because it doesn't, what happens to us here in the smaller part of Rankin is that a big thing has gone through and they've pushed it through for this great reason and it's gonna give lots of jobs, and then now it's set a precedent. So the little guy that wants to kind of take over a neighborhood with his, inappropriate building, now can say, well, they just did it, and it was fine, and they broke the rules, and it's gonna give jobs. So it just got pushed through, and it's very frustrating for us homeowners. It's very frustrating, because we're not getting any accountability there. We don't generally get to speak publicly here, and by the time it gets to city council, they're under the impression that it's a done deal, you guys have done your job, we don't have to ask any more questions. So I appreciate you bringing business and money and jobs and all those things, but I appreciate that you're looking out for the things like the traffic and the buses and the noise buffers, because that dwindles down to a problem in our neighborhoods when they want to put up the 24-hour storage facility that they're going to use for industrial use, which by the way is against the ordinances itself, but you wouldn't know that because they're not updated since 2017 in the computer. These meetings make a difference when we're talking to the big guys about the big things. So I just wanted to thank you for doing your due diligence, because we're having a hell of a time with city council by the time it passes planning and zoning. And if there's a way for us to be more involved as the little communities, I don't know what that is. I'm not educated enough to know what that is, but I'd like to know what it is, because I'll be here. What do you need from us? What kind of feedback are you looking for? So thank you for recognizing that I had a question. I know you don't normally take a lot of public comment here, but it is really impacting us in the neighborhoods that planning and zoning is ramming things through a lot.
I'd like to start there, because I disagree with that. We always ask for public comment. And if this.
We were told we weren't supposed to have public comment here.
Who told you that?
City council.
Well, it's on
So I
our
was glad
agenda.
to see it was on,
And
well,
it's
in
on
the
our
agenda, thank goodness, somebody sent it to me on the app, because, on the Nextdoor app, because it wasn't on the website where I could find it, it had to be emailed, so. Again, there's this kind of flow of information that's not happening to the citizens. Like, I went and looked up the ordinances, and I went to city council, prepared, and oh gosh, sorry, we don't have the money for that, and can't update that since 2017.
I want to tell you that you can go on the city website and get the agendas.
I can get the old ones, I couldn't find the new one. This was emailed out to somebody today.
The upcoming agendas are on the site.
I couldn't find it
Where's
if
the
it was
April
there.
agenda, ma'am?
Yeah.
Because it's not on the website.
It's not on the website, the upcoming one. I can see what happened, they are listed, but this actually was emailed to another neighbor, and the neighbor knew I was coming tonight and passed it on to me. So there's this kind of lost, it's supposed to be that way, and it was set up to be that way, but we're not flowing that way. So now we have all these mad neighbors and mad neighborhoods for good reason, because we don't have updated information and we don't even know to come here to do it.
Well, and I'd like to say in defense of City Hall, that we've got a new city manager,
Yes.
Terry's new, and they're working hard, and these girls work hard. If you've
Bless
ever-
you for that, and I don't mean any disrespect, but living in the
They're working
neighborhood,
hard
man,
to
is
get
it
things.
heartbreaking.
As a matter of fact, if you notice the stuff in front of you, we're now live, so you can, if you don't wanna come, you can hear it live, so they're working hard to make sure you're informed. And I know that I come to the town hall meetings, I come here, and we always ask for input normally. So, but we meet this
Thank you
Tuesday.
for that.
We meet the third Tuesday of every month at 6:30. So tell them to come. We'll never.
I did. I actually got on the Nextdoor app and I've asked people to please join me, and I've posted when the city hall meetings are and now when these meetings are. And I do want the community to get more involved, not to stop progress, just so that we are all part of the progress and to be informed. It's, you know, I have people living in my neighborhood that are older than I am. That's how long they've been homeowners. And I just feel like it is our job now, our generation's job now, to keep Rincon safe. And these things is where it starts. And we have got to get here. And I need better flow of information to get here.
I agree.
Sooner,
Let me address
faster.
a couple of things that you mentioned. You're right that the way for things to get out to the community, we've got those in place, and they've always been there, and we're continuing to do that, and you can see we're upgrading it. The most frustrating part for people like us is we don't have enough people like you that come to these meetings and voice their opinion. But in fact, every meeting, every single item on the agenda, you notice it's on the agenda
I
here.
did see that on the agenda and I'm thrilled.
It's always listed as public input, even when there's no public to be asked. I always mention, is there anybody in the public?
actually, we almost didn't come.
Excuse me, let me finish.
I'm sorry.
So, as far as public having input, this is the first step. And yeah, please let other people know, because that's part of the frustration that we have, because the public doesn't feel like we're doing our job, when in fact, it is part of the public, it's their responsibility to know
be
what's going
here.
on around them as well, which is what you're
Absolutely.
doing, which I commend that. And what happens is, yeah, people do get here, and they're like, well, we don't know what's going on. It's posted, it's also, and again, it all has to be done legally, but most of all these things, if there's ever a public meeting, it's posted in advance, it is out there, but it does take, again, people like you to take the initiative to get up and come to these meetings and see what's going on. And as far as, you mentioned, again, we always ask for public input on each and every item on the agenda, at least I do.
That's awesome.
And these guys do too. We make sure to do that. So keep that in mind. There's always a time to answer questions or to put some input. What was the other thing I was gonna put? I think I said my points, but I appreciate it. And
I think the other thing to address is that if they're building something on a site that's zoned accordingly,
It is not.
you know, but I'm saying if they are,
Mhm.
then really, you can't deny someone if it's zoned accordingly. You know, I mean, you have, sometimes we have to just do our due diligence and make sure they've checked all their boxes and crossed all their Ts and dotted all their Is, but
Right.
past that, there's nothing else we can do.
Right, let me help give you some more information too about what our job is here as this board right here.
Mhm.
Again, I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're a recommending body to city council. If somebody, what she's talking about, if somebody comes in and says, well, listen, I wanna put 4 houses per acre on this lot, or on this piece of property,
Mhm.
and it's zoned 4 houses per acre, and they follow the rules, they follow the setbacks, they
Yes.
follow this and that, usually they don't even have to come to us because they got all the rules
Yep.
followed. However, if there's a variance, there's a change, that's when it comes to us, and we have to, of course, evaluate that. And then again, we're gonna make a recommendation, either approval, disapproval, table it, whatever it might be, to city council. City council does make the final rule. I don't believe that and I know you may feel this way, city council, they have the authority, even if the rules are being followed to the
Mhm.
T, it's up to them to say, hey, wait a minute, that's just not a good thing for our community. We don't necessarily have that opportunity to do that. We want to make sure it's done correctly as far as the legal stuff goes. But for example, let's say we had a nuclear power plant that decided to come in, they met all the guidelines. Well, it's up to city council to say, well, you know, maybe that meets everything, but that's just not a good thing for our community for whatever the reason might be. And they have the authority to do that. We don't necessarily have that, but we're trying to get as much information we can to city council and kind of sort out issues that come up like this. And we want to hear from the public, because everything that we put here, and now it's live streamed, but everything we do gets to city council, and they of course you know, look at some of the comments that are made. So, yeah, we appreciate you coming here, and I hope you can do get some more folks to do the same thing.
We actually are having a neighborhood meeting on Friday night,
Mhm.
before Monday night city council meeting, and we're, I think the goal is to do that twice a month in our neighborhood,
Mhm.
to try and have some meetings, even if not everybody can come, a spokesperson can come.
Mhm.
And it is this body that works then if something wants to have permission for rezoning or for variances or conditionals, is that correct?
That's correct.
So
Yes,
when
among
we
some other
have-
things, But yeah, that's.
When we
the
have
main-
concerns about somebody bringing to you request for that, this would be the place to come before it ever gets to City Hall, is that my understanding?
Well, you'd go to the planning
Well,
and zoning
here.
development, yes, and then
Yes.
it comes through us,
Okay.
and then it goes from us, and you'll see, even if we approve or disapprove or whatever, usually approval or disapproval, it doesn't matter, it goes to city council
Okay.
anyway. So anything on this agenda, it goes from here to them with whatever our recommendation happens to be. And then again, city council can deny
Yeah,
or
they-
whatever they wanna do with that, that's their job,
No, that,
And
it's
remember,
very
they-
helpful to know that.
They're the ones that appoint us, but we've been appointed to help them do their job. So hopefully that helps when you're explaining
does.
to the homeowners. But yeah, this is the first spot to get, your voice heard and just kind of sort out issues that come up. Cause a lot of times, we can figure it out, and make it, our job is also to keep things moving along, but to move things along well. In other words, smartly, like you were talking about, not just to move it along, but to move it along well and smart and for the city. And that's what we try to do.
I appreciate that, and
Thanks.
I appreciate you hearing me on that, because the traffic and the noise barriers, including landscape, are two huge things that are coming up with people wanting to do builds in a residential area. And so if we don't really take time to make the big guys do it, we can't make the little guys do it. So I do appreciate you taking the time to hear that, that's a big concern for the citizens.
It's one of our big concerns too, as far as landscaping goes, as you can see, because
And the
That's
traffic
the-
flow,
it-
because
and
you
then the
only
traffic
have
flow is
Old
always a big
Augusta,
concern as
21,
well.
and Fort Howard, that's how you get to Rincon.
Right. Thanks
I
for your time,
appreciate
I
it.
appreciate it.
Thank you so
Yes,
much
no.
for being receptive.
Sure.
Back
Um,
to Stephen.
What is the city's recommendation on this, or the city's position on this?
The city would recommend approval, but I understand if the board would prefer to do preliminary approval and have council take that under consideration when they review it.
Okay. Anybody else from the public that would like to say something on this matter? All right, other questions or comments from the board?
I think so.
All right. If everybody's satisfied, I'll call for a motion.
I move that we approve this as a preliminary site plan, noting that we did not have enough information in the notes, and send it to city council.
All right, so I'm gonna clarify, the motion on the table is for preliminary approval for this site plan, based on the information that we have, that we've got here today, is the motion.
I second that.
And it's seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, so, again, just to kind of help explain everything, at this point, we're making a recommendation to city council that it's approved as a preliminary. City council will be able to look at that, and of course, you guys have the obligation to make sure that if you want this to go through final, it sounds like you're already doing your job, but you need to make sure that they've got everything they need. I sure would like to see a landscaping plan as well, not just from this board, but personally as well, because I agree with her that it's important. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your time, appreciate it.
All righty, thank you. All right. All right, next item on the agenda is, number 2 is, a petition has been filed by the Richard and Geraldine is that Bussey or?
Bussey.
Bussey?
Yeah.
Okay. Bussey, requesting a variance for a 10-foot reduction of a 25-foot setback in a to screen in an existing slab at the rear of the home. The property is owned by Richard and Geraldine Bussey. The property is located at 213 St. Andrews Road and is zoned MXU. Parcel number is R2470229. And are you folks, can you come up to the podium and give us an idea of just give us a rundown of what you're looking to do here today? We have some information, but I always ask that,
Yeah, I think you've
give us
got
a
all the
rundown of what you're
pictures
trying to do.
that were taken, and you got an overhead shot of the lot and everything there. We just moved down from northern Illinois last October and are enjoying it here. And want to enjoy it more during the summer when the bugs come out, and just have a standard screened-in porch put on there. And with that site, we can walk right out of our house, out of our master bathroom, into there without having to go outside. And then we will have a door that goes along. If you look at that picture, there's a sidewalk that goes over to the garage area and stuff. And we'll have a door there too. But it's just gonna be a standard screened-in porch. If you look at the pictures, my next door neighbor has one. And that's even closer than ours, but it's been there for a while. And it won't be any different than that same type of screened-in porch,
Could you
nothing
explain-
obnoxious.
Explain to me what you mean by standard, exactly, what is the construction?
Well, I mean, it's aluminum.
Aluminum frame.
With screening and aluminum roof that's insulated, and then there'll be a fan in there.
Okay, so.
And that's pretty much-
Hard aluminum roof going over the top,
Yeah,
and then.
Whatever they have on it,
Screening
like-
around the perimeter.
yes.
Would you say all of it is aluminum construction, or is there some wood?
No, there's no wood, it's all aluminum.
Okay.
If I go back and read the contract I have with Coastal, it's all aluminum.
Okay.
There's no wood in it, so you're not gonna have problems with like termites and
So
stuff.
it's similar to your neighbors?
Yes, yeah. Except his screen goes all the way to the ground. I'll have one of those things, the metal comes up this high, so you don't get dirt in it and stuff. So, and we're looking forward to enjoying, like I say, the Georgia evenings and all that. And you can see us, we're not gonna throw big parties out there and disturb the neighbors. And the other thing too is you can look at the pictures they took, the house that's right behind us, there's a tall fence, but there's also trees that hang over. And I can't even hardly see my neighbor's house back there, so I never see them or hear them. And I think if you look at the top view, when they built that house, behind me, the corner of it is like well within the zoning, so I don't know what they did back there when the contractor was putting that in. So I'm not trying to encroach on them, I just want to have a nice place that I could sit in out there in the evening.
And this meets your HOA requirements?
Yes, yeah, they've already approved it, Bob May has. And in fact, he's approved other ones, they have a lot of them in that, old plantation. In fact, we moved there because my daughter, son-in-law, my two grandsons live down the street around the corner. And we just moved out here, it's nice here, and wanted to be close to my grandsons. And we haven't seen a lot the last 10 years because he was still in the Air Force and they were moving all over the place.
Have you started any construction at all on it yet?
No,
Okay.
no, I've had to put a coating on it, an epoxy coating on the concrete.
Right, nothing, no uprights or
Oh,
anything
no,
like that?
nothing like that at all.
Well, that's the question I asked, because a lot of times folks come to here because they started construction without getting a permit,
Right.
and they've been stopped, so I'm just trying to make
Sure.
sure that we're
No, I
where we ought to be.
I lived in Illinois, we gotta have permits to breathe sometimes.
I hate to say it, but it's all to help
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure things don't get out of hand,
Yeah.
so, yeah,
I mean, I
sometimes.
put up 2 fences up there that, I went in, they looked at my drawings, got me my permits and got it done, so.
Well, thanks for doing it in advance, because a lot of times we get it
Oh, yeah.
in the middle of it and makes it even
Well, if you
worse.
do that, they can tell you to tear it down.
Yeah, well, exactly.
That's a lot of money.
Unfortunately, that's doesn't make us real popular, but at the same time, we're
Right.
trying to do our best to
Right.
protect
Right.
the other property values
Sure.
around it as well.
Sure.
With that being said, usually, one of the biggest criteria we use, as this board uses, when it comes to variances, is we wanna see what or if there is a particular hardship. And a hardship would be something, for example, a good example is, let's say somebody's living in a home and an accident happens, now they're required to have a wheelchair access.
Right.
And they're gonna have to encroach where they shouldn't. That would be a hardship. Obviously, it's something that they didn't have planned, it's nothing they could have.
Right. Well, our hardship here would be, we're very affected by bug bites and stuff like that. I mean, I'm 76, my wife's 74.
Mhm.
So, again, we just want to enjoy it without getting sick from bugs and all that.
No particular hardships, though, other than
Yeah.
getting bit by bugs.
Right.
Like we all
Well,
get, but,
yeah,
okay.
but again, a lot of my neighbors have those too, so
Mhm.
we just like to be able to enjoy it like everybody else does.
Mhm.
And the people, on both sides of us know about it already, haven't had a problem. Of course, Andy has one, and Trina, she doesn't really care, I talked to her. And the guy behind me really can't even see it. In fact, those are all his trees, and I had to trim them up because they were hanging down in the backyard when I bought the house, so.
The neighbor that has a screened porch, you said already, is, if you're standing at your front door, they're to the right? If you're standing, let's, in the street, looking at your house from the street,
Yeah, they would
they would
be-
be the neighbor to your right, to my right.
Oh, that has the one already?
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
I'm looking at an overhead of that as well.
yeah. I think the report it says to the west, but that's east, so. And he's got a nice one, it's gonna be pretty much like that.
Is his all aluminum?
Yes,
Another concern that we have is, one of the criteria we look at, again, is hardship. Secondly, of course, how it affects other properties,
Right.
both physically and possibly financially. Obviously, we don't wanna allow something that's gonna diminish the property value
Right.
of the surrounding area. So, I'm just looking at that as well.
I'm familiar with that house, because that's the Swanson's old house, Jim, and Mark's house,
Mhm.
that's their house. They-
pardon?
And y'all bought that from Ann and Mark Swanson?
Yeah,
Yes.
They're friends of mine. Y'all done a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
all,
yeah.
it's nice, it looks really nice.
we're gardeners, so that's why, with all the flowers and
It's
stuff we've done,
gorgeous.
and,
It's gorgeous.
yeah, we've cleaned up a lot, but we love the house. I love that front porch, and sit out there, but once it gets buggy, then I gotta go hunt, I can sit there. And we're
Where are
right
you from
across
again?
from that park.
Where's you from originally?
Wheaton, Illinois.
Wheaton,
When
Illinois.
you say buggy, and my family's from New York, and that's what my mom always said, I just thought it was funny.
Oh.
Yeah, well, even told by people down here it's that bad.
It can
So,
be, you gotta get used to it,
Yeah,
but you'll be used to it in 30, 40 years, you'll be
but
fine.
like I said, we moved in October, I didn't miss the snow and cold at all.
Other comments? Again, I'm opening it up to the public, if anybody else from the public would like to make a comment on this particular matter? What's the city's position on this?
The city found that they met the criteria and is recommending approval.
Okay. Do you, has the fire chief looked at this? Do you know?
He is not, he typically doesn't review single family. The building inspector has looked at it, Mr. Meadows has looked at it.
Well, the reason I ask that is, usually my concern is, again, it's not right on top of, I mean, you're looking at 10 foot of a 25-foot setback, so you're still 15 feet off the back property line. Fire can be an issue. People wanna put things right on the property line, and that all sounds wonderful until the guy behind you also wants to put it there. And the next thing you know, we've got shed fires, and the fire department
Yeah.
can't get to that, so.
We don't have any fire pits, anything
Well,
like that.
that's one other thing I was gonna ask, but that's why I asked
It's that hot, I'm
about
not
the
gonna have a
construction.
fire.
Um,
No, I understand it, but it is, I'm looking at the quote here, and it's all white powder coated aluminum, all of it. With aluminum screens. So,
Oh, aluminum screens.
yeah.
You're not gonna use a vinyl screen?
Now, I think the aluminum is better. We've always had aluminum on our windows at our homes and stuff. So, we talked about that with, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be a real fine mesh too, so.
Unless we have any other comments, opening it up for the last time.
Wouldn't
for the public.
fiberglass be worse?
Sorry?
Wouldn't fiberglass be worse?
I'm not the one to make the decision on that. That's
Oh.
kind of, I guess, a cosmetic thing.
Yeah.
The concern I always have is, well, one of the concerns, of course, is, you know, proximity to other buildings. And
Right.
yeah, if something, you know, if it tends to be a fire hazard, or if a fire was to happen, maybe on the property behind it, again, how easy is it for the police to get there? I mean, we don't wanna put not the police, but the fire department, we don't wanna put an obstruction that's gonna
Yeah.
cause them to take more time to get to something. To
Yeah.
me, it doesn't look like that's an issue.
Yeah, I mean, with that fence,
Let's
it's
pray
harder
for
to get
fairly
over
wide
that.
open.
They could get a fire truck back there and do it if they wanted to.
No, but I mean,
I'm
I'm talking about like
familiar.
firemen dragging hoses through there, of course, you don't
Yes.
wanna put up a, you know, something which, I mean, this doesn't,
No, I think
It's not
that
an-
fence is more of a hazard. Cause that's heavy wood. It's solid.
all right, any other questions or comments? I'll call for a motion then, if we're ready for that, unless we have any other input.
Well, I move that we accept, this application as written.
So a motion for approval as written, giving them a 10-foot variance on the screen, the aluminum screen porch.
I'll second
And second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, but again.
Thank you very much.
It goes from
Thank you.
here, that's not the end of it, this is just.
Well, I know we gotta
We
go
gotta
to
go to
the-
city council.
the
yeah,
council
which is-
meeting, but that's
Which is
fine.
on, what day, I'd usually ask that at the beginning,
June 12th.
June 12th. So June 12th,
That's a Tuesday
you
again,
have to
right?
do the same thing
That
with
was
city
Monday.
council.
Pardon? Oh, it's a Monday. It's here again.
It is here again.
I don't know why
But
I
it's
thought all
7.
this was over at the city hall building.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, welcome to Rankin.
Thank you.
Oh, we love it.
We love it.
Oh, we can go.
Here we go.
Oh.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, it wasn't.
We ready to move on? All right, next item on the agenda, a petition, item number 3 on the agenda is a petition has been filed by the Lawrence Alexandra Homes LLC on behalf of Maui Plaza LLC, requesting a variance to reduce the minimum width of each lot within a proposed 35-lot single-family subdivision. The property is located at 1678 Fort Howard Road and is zoned R4, single-family residential, and a parcel number 04630029. Anybody here representing them today? If you wouldn't mind giving me your name, so.
How you doing? I'm Alex Long,
Alex?
represent Lawrence Alexander Homes, Mr. Dan Fisher with EMC.
Okay.
So what we're here before you today, requesting a relief on the road frontage so that we can minimize the impact to the wetlands on the property. That is our hardship that's before you today. As you can see in your packet, there's about 4, I don't have it right in front of me, but there's a good little bit of wetland, but we're trying to impact less than 1/10 of an acre with the alternate plan that we've submitted here. We did originally come before the board with a R5, and after talking with staff and the new city manager and Jonathan, we adjusted. We pulled our request for R5 to keep to R4, but with some variances, as we felt like what we're submitting before you today is the best use of the property for both the city and for what we're trying to accomplish here within the subdivision. With the plan that we have before you today, the road would have, you know, curvature in it, which adds to the curb appeal and the aesthetics of the neighborhood, instead of having to go straight through in a, you know, in a single shot. The wetlands being unimpacted on both sides of the property also add for more green space. And again, that improves the aesthetics of the overall, of the community, of the neighborhood. And I'd like to note that we've added the 20-foot buffers on the sides and the 20-foot buffer on the front at Fort Howard Road, which minimalizes the impact on the neighbors. The neighbors are my family, so they're my aunt, my uncle, my grandparents, my dad, my mom, and a future site there. So they all butt up to this property on the one side. So obviously the least we can impact them, you know, that is the better for my family reunions at least. As you can see, the common area that's submitted kind of right there at that curvature, which would allow us to which would basically allow us to only impact that point, that less than 1/10 of an acre, instead of impacting almost 4 acres of wetland. And so, you know, what we're, yeah, it's about a little over something acre that we would be impacting instead of the less than 1/10 of an acre. So with this plan, we would only impact less than 1/10 of an acre of wetlands instead of over an acre of wetlands. I'd like to, you know, also note that what you see before you, under R4, the minimum lot size is 12,000 square feet. So even with minimalizing the road frontage there, we've increased and adjusted the lot so that we still maintain the 12,000 square foot minimum. So we're not, you know, we're not asking for less than the 12,000. We're just asking for some relief on the way that we design those lots to achieve that 12,000, so that we're not impacting the wetlands, which we feel, you know, is more detrimental to the neighborhood than what, you know, what we're presenting before you today.
What was I don't have it in front of me, what's the original lot size for this?
12,000 square feet.
Not the
For
square
R4?
footage, the frontage.
100.
100 feet.
100 square feet under R4, we're requesting to reduce that 15 feet to 85.
That's what I was looking for, 85.
Yes.
So that's 85 feet from the roadway?
The
No,
width,
width.
so like when you're
Oh, I see.
standing there looking
Now
at the
I-
lot, instead of at
it's hard to see,
100
but
foot.
now I see where it says 85. Yeah.
So the lot width is what?
Would be
Normally
85.
calls, yeah, normally.
Under R4, it would call for 100 feet. We're asking to be reduced to 85. We're maintaining the same side setbacks that it would be at 100, so that way we're still not encroaching any closer on either side, for, you know, for the home that would be built there. So we would still have the same distance between the houses. So, you know, in reducing that, in other words, we're not gonna pack a house 5 foot and then another house 5 foot. We're still keeping the same side setbacks, even though we're reducing the overall, the road frontage there. We're not asking to reduce the side setbacks as well. So you would still have, with a side setback of 15 foot, you would still have at least 30 foot minimum between home sites, which is what, you know, under R4, it would allow the same thing regardless of the variance. In other words, so granting the variance doesn't push any of the houses closer together, we're still keeping that same side setback.
So the maximum house you'd have, the maximum width of the homes are right at 50 feet,
Correct.
width-wise.
Correct.
If I remember right, did this also, do you guys need to put in a, are they still gonna need a lift station?
A pump station site, yes, and that's on the plan.
Far left.
It's in the, yeah, it's in the cul-de-sac.
Oh, I see it now, sorry.
Just the variance.
Just the variance.
Just the variance, yeah.
Yes, the variance would allow us to submit for our site plan approval, for our sketch plan approval.
The two small common areas, are they wetlands or are they?
Some of it is wetland on both of those, correct.
Mm.
But if you're looking at the pictures, it's classified as wetland. It's not holding water.
Right.
It's not, you know, it's part of that's in a field. But, you know, there's 3 categories that, you know, when you're looking at what's considered jurisdictional wetlands, it's not always just water standing on the ground. Sometimes it's vegetation, sometimes it's hydrology, or things like that. So that's what we're facing here, which is also why we didn't know that was wetlands when we originally submitted, for the plan, which is when we were working with Jason. This is how far back that goes. We were working with Jason, which is why Jason recommended, hey, just ask for R5, and then that takes out all of that where you won't have to impact the wetland. And then at the meeting, you know, we
When you
chose
go
to,
to
we
R5,
chose.
how many lots were you looking to get in there?
I was actually asking for the same number that we were getting under the R4. We just pulled that because, you know, after getting feedback from everyone, I guess they felt that future properties down were gonna get the R5. There was some comments of spot zoning or whatnot. I didn't feel like it was a spot zone because there are some R5s and stuff, but that's not what we're asking for today. We're asking to remain R4, which is what the property currently is.
Right.
We're willing to work within the, you know, the confines of that because, again, with my family next to the property, I'm not looking to pack, you know, 80 to 100 townhomes or something like that on the property, which I know has been brought before the council before under a previous person attempting to purchase the property. You know, what we're looking to do is build a quality house for, you know, just like with Sawan coming here for some of the, you know, the growth that the city of Rankin has seen. We're looking to, you know, to provide them with houses to live because they gotta go somewhere.
Are these
And
houses for sale or rent?
they'll be for sale. They'll be single-family homes for sale.
Not that it matters with variance, I was just curious.
Well, it matters to me too, with my family living behind. I'm not trying to put a rental community or whatnot and pack them right in on top. And also, you'll notice that's why we put the 20-foot buffer, you know, there. We're trying to make sure that we do this the right way. I feel like that the variance that's before you today is the best use of the property as far as not impacting the wetlands. If we were forced to impact the wetlands, the road wouldn't have the curvature that it has, which I think adds to the appeal. The road would impact more wetlands for us to achieve the same number of lots. So we're not asking for a lot increase. You know, the reduction in the road frontage doesn't add to the lot density under the R4. So we're asking for the same, you know, we're achieving the same 35 lots that, you know, that R4 would allow without the variance. But in that scenario, we would have to impact the wetlands, which is, you know, ultimately our hardship is before you today.
The buffer that you're talking about is on both.
On all sides.
Yeah, perimeter of the, all property.
Correct.
With the buffer, let's just take an average lot, 85 feet wide, how deep are we looking at? I can barely read the
On some of
number.
these, you're looking at 122, 142 feet. Some of them
I see
are more, some of them are
122,
less.
122,
Plus the 20-foot buffer would give you 142 feet on some of those.
and it's 25-foot setback from the back, correct? I think we're about 25
That's a
feet.
requirement.
Yes, the rear is 25 foot.
And you're leaving a 20-foot buffer?
The lines we showed on there are
Mhm.
actually 40 feet,
Okay.
because we were thinking of that buffer.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, the same thing. It
Yeah, the
doesn't look
20
like to me, if you're, I mean, the site or the dotted lines that you're showing as building,
That's,
It's
I
actually
think,
40
that's
feet.
why we asked for the, if you'll notice, the proposed, building setback on the front is 25, because we're adding that extra buffer in the back, so I think we shifted that. Am I
Yeah.
correct? We shifted that, because under R4, it would be a 35-foot setback on the front. The front setback would be 35 foot, so the proposed front setback with that shift would be 25 feet on the front setback to not get into that buffer, because we did increase the buffer size. Because if you notice, under the
Let me make
R4,
sure I
that buffer
understand.
would be 10 foot.
let me make sure I understand. So you're also,
Well, the proposed, what was submitted, the proposed setback for the front was 25 feet, yes, which is what is on the sketch plan, or the plan that you have.
this is a variance on the minimum width of each lot at the front building line. I'm looking for the part that you're talking about that says you want.
If you look in the site information, it's on the plan right there where it says proposed.
This one?
Yes, sir. Under the site information, if you look under the building setbacks, the
I see
first
that.
setback there says front proposed minimum 25 feet.
This one says preserved lots. So we're not looking at just a variance for the width, but you're also looking for a variance on the
That-
front setback.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
That's
If-
what his application said.
Hmm.
Right, that would be an issue because we've only advertised.
Yeah, that's what
Or
I'm
the
saying.
lot
I don't see that it actually was written down as that. I've just seen where we were looking at the width.
Okay,
But
well,
no.
if we can address the width then today, we can address the setback on the front
Well,
of it.
let's talk about that in a minute. The reason you're
Okay.
saying you want the shorter, I mean, the less setback.
We added
from the front.
a larger buffer around the perimeter of the property.
Right, so let me make sure everybody understands. The reason you're saying you would like to have 25 feet as a buffer, as a setback in the front rather than 35 feet is because you shifted the building pad or the building.
The only variance that you can give is to that minimum lot width.
Right, that's
Because
what I'm
that's the
saying.
only thing that we advertise.
Right, and you were bringing up
posted
the other
as a
thing, and I'm saying, well,
Okay, well, and that's
Yeah.
fine, we don't have to, but I mean, if y'all wanna discuss that while I'm here today, just
Well,
to
that's what I
get
was
some
thinking. I mean,
feedback
you
on
know,
that. I mean, like I said.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, I don't know that you need, when I say a 20-foot buffer, let me tell you what that means to me. That means you don't touch 20 feet of
Mhm.
whatever's there. That means that one of your guys go and accidentally clear, we got a problem, which is what happens. I mean, I'll be very honest with you, and I don't wanna see that happen. So if you say you're gonna do 20 feet, you gotta leave 20 feet. If you're not required to leave 20 feet,
Again,
Then you
we were
may-
trying to do
you
that
may wanna
because
readdress
that
that.
butts up to my family's property, so that's more so why we were trying to increase that buffer size.
I gotcha.
Just to increase the
and
distance there.
listen, if you
I-
say you're
I
gonna
felt
do
like it
that,
was-
then you have to do it. But if
I
you don't
understand.
say you're gonna do it, then you don't necessarily have to do that.
And if we.
So you can clear as much as you want to clear, as long as you have enough for,
Right.
there, but of course, it's gonna, if you're selling these houses, I
We'll-
know you
we'll
want to have
revisit
some kind of
that.
a backyard.
Well, we can revisit that with staff if we can,
Mhm.
if we can get through whether or not the front,
The
lot
width.
width.
The width, yes.
Because this isn't for the sketch plan approval, so we can address that when we come for the sketch plan approval on that.
Mhm. Well, this is kind of a sketch plan approval.
Well, that's
Well, no,
only
it's
a
not really a
variance.
sketch plan,
Well,
you're right,
Right.
that's right, sorry. We're just looking at variance.
Yes.
Sorry.
But I'm saying we can adjust that before we come back for a sketch plan approval.
I
We
follow
could
you.
minimize,
You're right,
the-
you're
we
right.
could minimize the buffer and
I
and not
misspoke.
require the setback.
So there's an issue with the front.
No, we need to just
Sorry.
eliminate that.
Sorry, we'll-
Okay,
we'll
that's
just-
complicating
Yeah.
things. At this point, we are here to discuss whether it's okay to do a 35-foot, I'm sorry, gosh, 85-foot width rather than 100-foot.
Sorry to convolute that.
And again, not to confuse anything, but keep in mind, he's not required to have a 20-foot buffer all around the property. Okay, not required. I understand that might be what your family wants, but,
I understand.
but, we all know
Understood.
land can be sold tomorrow and some other family lives here, so we're taking everything into account. As far as the value of again, like I mentioned earlier in this meeting, the value of property to surrounding areas and so forth. All right, so we're just looking at that. And any other, are we clear on that, everybody? We're just talking about a variance for the width of the property. Yeah. But of course, that's something to consider, even though we're not officially considering whether he's gonna get you would have to do another variance.
We'll address that with Terry. We'll meet with staff and address that again, but I mean, if we can, I'd like to try to figure out on the 85-foot, so we're not, obviously EMC doesn't come free of charge.
Mhm.
So, if we can address that, unless Dan wants to give me some credits there, but.
Well, let me do this, since we've talked a bit, let me go ahead and open it up to the public again. Anybody you have any thoughts on this? You're the only public left.
I know.
All right. City, where does the city stand on this one?
So the city recommends approval, found that they met the, found that they met the hardship criteria based on the wetlands. I did suggest that if the board recommends approval, and again, this is just a suggestion, that a condition be added to the approval that wetland areas 1 and 2 cannot be disturbed.
Mhm.
And those are the two wetlands on the side. The rear one, that one can't be disturbed at all, so.
Can I add that wetland 2 will have impact only for the 1/10 of an acre that the road needs to go through? Can that recommendation just be, because if you're.
Clear that it's, yes.
Yeah, it just be clear that for the road, so we wouldn't impact them other than for the road, because if you look, wetland 2 is impacted.
So
Just
tell
like,
me again what the city's position is, so I can kind of scratch it out.
Sure, city recommendation is approval with the,
If you want to see, both of these were classified as wetland two, so that the only impact of wetland two would be for the road.
yeah, I think it was just because it wasn't covering that as wetland too, so. Yeah, okay, so with the condition that wetland areas 1 and 2 not be disturbed with the exception of the area that's needed for the road, which is 0.94 acres.
That's 0.094 acres.
Oh, 94, yes.
Tenth of
Yeah.
that.
Tenth of an acre, yeah,
It's not very much.
which is about the size of this desk.
Trying to do the least bit of damage, you know.
And they're not proposing at all to disturb it, it's just, to me, it's always better to have that protection on there. Especially since the protection of those wetlands is a large part of our support for the
And he
variance.
wants to enjoy Christmas dinner with his family.
So, other comments, what are the thoughts on this? I wanna get some thoughts from the board on where we are.
I think it's a nice thing if we're trying to not disturb areas that are precious, such as Dasher Creek, which flows basically right through the back wetland area.
That's state protected water.
Yeah.
Okay?
Agree, I fully appreciate what you're on.
I mean, I think it'd be a nice addition to the community. You know, Fort Howard Road is definitely growing. There's obviously already some development on Fort Howard Road, but I feel like, I may be a little biased here, but I feel like our development would be a little bit even, you know, notch above. You know, like I said, I may be a little biased there.
Houses, I'm kind of glad about the number of
Sorry.
houses,
Mhm.
reducing the number of houses, I like that part.
Well, and we need nicer homes, because I've talked to several couples that cannot find that middle income house. They can find the lesser or the way up here, but they cannot find the middle income houses.
45, that's good.
Is there a name for the site?
Anything
It's gonna be called The Grove.
Very good.
The Grove would be the you know, that's what we would propose, the name of the development, The Grove. We already have some preliminary designs on the signage. It's gonna be a nice G that has like the leaf comes off the G and kind of drips down. I thought it looked we paid some money for, you know, logos to be created and stuff like that.
And just curiosity, there'll be HOA and.
Yes. Yeah, we do HOAs for
I
all
know
of our
that comes
communities.
further down the planning area.
Yes, McManamy, Jackson, and Hollis, who are here in Rankin, who have an office here in Rankin, they do all of our HOA stuff for all of our communities, so we would have an HOA.
Oh, I'm sorry, there is one other person in the public.
Do you have a question?
No question?
Okay, all right.
Say
here
I'm
we
ready to go
ask.
home.
Just making sure. Any other further comments or questions? Are we ready to make a motion? Is somebody ready to make the motion on this?
I would be prepared to make a motion
Okay.
with the recommendations that Terry's pointed out that she's listed, and I'm too tired to listen.
Okay, I'll help you out. Recommendation would be for approval with, for a 85 foot, lot widths, with the condition that they do not impact wetland areas 1 or 2, except for the 0.09 acres probably necessary for where the road would come in. That make sense?
Yes.
Everybody, did I do it right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the motion.
I second that.
And
Well
it's sec-
done.
And seconded.
Thank you, Tim.
Yes.
Anybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right then.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for your patience.
How many times have you tried to get this thing with different, this is the
No.
fourth version, third
No,
version?
those were other, that was another contractor trying to
Oh,
purchase
okay,
the
that's
property.
right.
And
Yeah.
when I saw what they were trying to do with my family owning the property, I jumped at the chance to purchase it to try to, you know, do the best due diligence that I could
300
for.
townhomes back
Yeah,
up
I mean, I really do feel like 35 lots is
It's
it's
much
not a-
more
it's
reasonable
not a
than
high density.
what was originally, like you said, there was a lot of townhomes they wanted, and it was way more density than what it normally calls for in that area, and that's why we recommended denial on that.
Well, and y'all recommended denial on the R5, because I wasn't here. Unfortunately, I had a family thing that came up that was forced me to not be here. But I felt like if we would have been able to discuss that through, we probably would. But that's why we pulled the R5 again, and to sit down with staff and try to get what was brought before you today, just because we had started that process with Jason, and then right before we were due to submit, of course, Jason is no longer here. And I'm like, but we didn't want to start all over, so we're like, well, let's just submit and see what feedback we get.
Well, since you do develop some stuff, one of the things that I did like to see, even though we've already said we're gonna recommend approval, is even though you're shrinking changing the
Front side.
configuration of
Front,
the
right.
lot, you're not changing the overall square footage of what's recommended by the code.
Right.
And to me, that makes a big difference, and sometimes you have to do that to make it developable, I think that's a word, developable, hard to say. But anyway, thank you for your time, we appreciate
And
it.
I'd
Thank y'all.
like you to know, the R5 thing wasn't so much for what you was gonna do, but what it would make us allow other people to do.
Well, and I understood that, and that's why at the, because you were at the council meeting there for that, and that's why at the time I just, pulled the request, because felt like we could get with Terry and John, and they worked, very well with us. Kudos to Terry stepping there, because when I started this process, Terry was on like day 2
Yeah.
of starting here. So we went ahead and submitted, because Terry's like, I don't even know, you're gonna have to give me some stuff. I'm like, well, we've done our homework with Jason. I'm like, well, Jason's not gonna be here for this. So, so that's why we went ahead and moved forward with it the other way. But after getting, we didn't lose any lot density. We got what we feel like was best for the city, and I feel like it's been a good compromise for both parties, where, we're putting something together that the community can be
Hope
proud
it'll
of.
work
and
out,
that we-
because it sounds like they're gonna need some houses if they put in this warehouse thing, or this
Well,
manufacturing thing. So I
it's-
appreciate it, thank you.
It's coming.
Thank you very much. We're ready to go home, so.
Me too. Listen, I got 8 kids home. That's my cue to shut up. I am gone.
This is a win.
Thank y'all.
Bye.
Can I address the board?
In just a moment, if, you know what, let's go ahead and finish agenda number 4, and then, we'll give you some time there if you need to, okay? The last item on the agenda is discussion for the proposal for the rules of the procedure for the Planning and Zoning Board. Has everybody had a chance to read through those?
I read it.
You read it? You read it? Everybody had a chance to read through it?
So you don't want me to read them to you word for word? I
No,
practiced it.
no, this
I'm
is not
kidding.
I want you to read it.
I have my highlights.
Well, I have a highlight too. I do have a question. I promise. It is on, everything here, for the most part, we're pretty much doing this already, okay? But, so we need to make this, put it in writing, so that if I'm not here and somebody else is here, of course, this is the way we kind of already operate as well, but you needed to have this kind of in writing.
I think it's important to set out rules of procedure. It's something we can share with the public. It helps sets out how the meetings are run. It addresses things like conflict of interest. It talks about contact with applicants, using we talked about that. I'm suggesting as part of it that we change the secretary of the board to a planning and zoning staff member. So it's things like that. It puts that into this. You would not vote on it today. Today is for discussion.
Right.
And if you have any changes, then I'll make those with the idea to vote on it at the June meeting.
Okay, I did have a question. One question that I had on, I guess, page 3. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, middle of the page, section C, or other section 1, where it says, a written final agenda shall be provided by the board secretary to each member on the board, of the board, and the news media shall be posted at least 5 business days. Is that something that we can easily do? Or do it need to be less than 5 days, like 4 days?
Oh, no, we do that right now. In fact, we
Well,
put
I
it
know,
out there sooner than
and it
that.
wasn't that way in the past, so thank you, Lolly. You're part of the reason that's able to be done. But I just wanna know, does that put an extra burden on you guys?
I don't think so.
5 days is a good day, a
Mhm.
good timeframe?
I think that works for,
Yeah,
that works for
absolutely.
us.
All right, well, 5 days is great, because that does give, again, folks, an
We've
an
been-
opportunity to see what's out there prior to, and it'll be posted on, and so forth,
Mhm.
so.
And we've been working to get hopefully you've noticed, we've been working to get your packets out to you sooner,
I have.
which means the agenda's out sooner. We're giving applicants a tighter time frame to turn stuff around. So if it's not turned around by this time, then it has to get moved to the next agenda. Because we're trying to provide good customer service, but at the same time, giving y'all enough time to be able to review
Mhm.
the information that's provided to y'all.
Okay. That's the only thing I had of all of it. I mean, it all is pretty much the way we're operating, but I think it is real important. I also like the fact that you have in here, which we never really, it talks about our obligations as board members,
Yeah.
and spells it out more clearly. So that's always great, because as you guys know, I can't call you new board members, some of you guys, because you've been here now for a while. But and it was not too long ago, a lot of you guys were new board members, and it's like, what are we doing here? So this can help a lot, I think. Right.
Right, and I think this combined, I want to make sure that we're doing regular training as well. And I do want to make sure this is just a tiny bit off of the rules of procedure, but, I don't want y'all to feel bypassed. I think it's important to have a planning and zoning board. I don't want you to be a rubber stamp group, because that'd be a waste of your time, it's a waste of our time. I mean, the idea is to provide real comments to city council, because they always ask at every single meeting where an item has gone to planning and zoning board first, they ask, what did planning and zoning board say? What was their discussion about? And now that I'm doing the staff reports, I put that in as well, what planning and zoning board voted. So I would like, not tonight, because I know people have, people are tired, they've got some
Well, it's
early
a-
mornings,
it's
but
a
I would
draft.
like to talk some more at some point about, what do you want to make sure that you're getting, find that final versus preliminary, but again, we can all kind of think about that a little bit and come back to that maybe at the next meeting. But I do want to make sure, just kind of like we're talking about these rules of procedure, I do this because I think this board is important, and I want you to have something to be able to rely on, and that the public can look at as well, or how is it gonna function, what's the board's role?
And just while we're discussing too, I would like to discuss the fact that, and I know it's not bypassed, I don't wanna use that term, but I feel like we're working in different silos. Actually, Will City Rankin that's getting better, I think, under Jonathan. But, and you coming on, I'm glad to see new faces and new ideas, but we needed that desperately. But still, we sit here and we see needs for ordinances. But yet we've got city council out there doing their thing, and we are not dancing together, and we have got to have a workshop and get in a room together about ordinances, because that's where I'm just about to lose my cool. Cause we've got a fence ordinance right now driving me crazy. Why has not all you have to do is go to the fence ordinance and take out the little part of the sentence that says that might cause injury or harm. It just says you cannot use basically junk to build a fence with.
Well, and keep this in mind though, we can always do that. We have the authority, we have the opportunity to say, hey, this is a code change we wanna make as a board here, okay, with the fence. She'll put it in good, correct grammar and writing. It goes to Raymond Dickey to make sure it's legal. And that's the kind of thing that if we see a change, we know that we've already discussed this about how they need to revamp the whole deal. And it's not really getting done right away. So small changes, feel free in doing that. Bring it to us and we can put it in action or
And
put
I
it
get
in
you eat
movement.
an elephant one bite at a time.
Right,
But it
that's what I'm
shouldn't
saying.
take 4 years.
I agree.
And now y'all are here and y'all are getting the brunt of it, Terry, but.
I think you will see a fence ordinance change coming very soon.
That's good.
So,
Yeah, and so that's a big one, and I just think that's gotta be addressed. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, I think the workshop's important too, because
it's hard for y'all to understand where council's coming from if you don't know where they're coming from,
Mhm.
so.
Well, and they need to know where we're coming from,
Mhm.
because we're still going out there and getting, just like I'm sure Lolly and y'all do, I mean, people are screaming about things. Our biggest job here needs to start becoming protecting the property values and the integrity and safety of our community, period. And, if people aren't seeing us do that, we're failing them, period. And property values are not being protected. You've got someone who bought a house in Lincoln, I won't name where, and it was in a nice little quiet neighborhood, and they have taken a cute little house and turned it into what looks like a third world country. And it's diminishing people's property values, and we've got to protect them with our codes and ordinances. We've got to, and they're failing them right now, desperately. And it's gonna open us up to lawsuits too, it's gonna have to. If you cost me $200,000 property value, I'm coming for you. And anybody should. Nobody's gonna wanna move here if we're not protecting property values.
So I do think that you will see a fence ordinance coming forward soon, and then we are working towards, what we need to do to hopefully get a consultant on board for a rewrite of the code. But there are some things we know that we can't wait on that board, because even if we got somebody
Right.
on board next week, it still takes time
It will.
to go through that whole entire process, and there are some things that we need to
Okay,
move on.
all right. All right, anything else?
So rules of procedure, if after you leave here, you think, oh, I wish I would have brought up this, just email me, I'll make sure that everybody gets it, but the plan right now is to vote on this at the meeting in June. The only other two things real quick is that, council approved the increased compensation for the board, so that'll take effect in June, so $50 a meeting instead of 25.
Mhm.
And then, I have not been out to see it yet, it's on my schedule to go out Friday and take some pictures, so I can share those at our next meeting, but my understanding is that, Salvador has moved his fence. He was able
He
to
did.
work with
Yes,
staff
I think he has.
to move it to a location that did not require a variance. So,
That's all
He
right.
he withdrew the variance from council, this is one that y'all recommended denial on as well, and he moved it to a location that worked within the code.
We appreciate it, that's a big win
Yes.
for everybody. All right, before I adjourn the meeting, I'm gonna give you an opportunity, I know you said you wanted to say something, so I don't wanna adjourn the meeting until you get your
I'll
chance.
try to be as quick as I can.
That's okay.
My name is Trent Eichman, I live on 212 Pine.
I'm sorry, what was the name of it?
Trent Eichman,
Trent.
her husband.
Eddie?
Yes, please, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Just a couple of questions.
Uh-huh.
I live in the neighborhood right over here, across from El Real.
Mhm.
All right, so there was a proposed self-storage warehouse. I work for a local municipality. I know your codes haven't been updated since 2017, all right? Just a recommendation for the city. Maybe someone could take notes for Terry or whatever, but the municipality that I work for, if we amend a code and don't codify it, it goes in red on the website. Has been amended but not yet codified in municipal code.
Mhm.
It is so hard in two different ways to try to go into the city website to find out what's going on, all right? And what's coming to our neighborhoods. Also, these public hearings. 2 pieces of property in my neighborhood, one zoned 1.18 acres is zoned R4. One is zoned general commercial, that one's 2.06. It was recommended that he be allowed to build mini storage warehouses in there. When I looked up the code, Terry emailed me tonight, or this afternoon, the old code, it fell under limited industrial. That was amended in '21. I had to dig for 2 hours to find where it was amended. That there could be a mini warehouse coming out into a neighborhood, not onto a main thoroughfare.
And a bus stop.
And that's where, that neighborhood, when I moved into that neighborhood, had about 4 kids in it. There's like 15 kids there right now. And when Terry addressed it, some of my issues, but supposedly the commercial property comes out onto Magnolia, which is part of the subdivision. None of the other commercial businesses, Dr. Green's office for the dentist, that comes out onto Weisenbaker. He's proposing a self-storage warehouse coming out into a neighborhood. on a subpar road that was pushed through to council. I got 15 kids riding bikes in that neighborhood. Who's raising their hand and said, I approved it when a truck backs over one of them kids? It's a public safety issue. Is the road safe enough? Is the road subpar for bringing in trucks? The other question I had, and Terry, maybe you can answer this. The municipality I work for, so if they were taking R4 and GC, they were building on GC, but they were using R4 for water retention. They would force them to combine them plots. You said they didn't have to, so what happens 5 years after he builds this lot and says, I'm gonna sell the R4? Because it's not one plot. So what stops him from selling the R4 that was supposed to be the water drainage for the GC? What stops that?
Well, I believe we talked about this when we spoke last week, and again, this is just a preliminary
Right.
plan as part of the conditional use variance right now. When he submits, assuming that council approves the conditional use variance, he'll have to go through the site plan approval, and because the lots are not combined, he'll have to have legal language recorded as well as an easement to do exactly that, to protect that
The
lot
city
from
council
being
was
sold off.
understanding.
Can I finish, please? To keep that lot from something else happening to it that would prohibit it from still being used for drainage. They can't sell off that lot and take away that drainage without providing it some other way.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking a warehouse with all blacktop around it, water's gotta go somewhere. And then the other thing I had heard about that property was, I got people in the neighborhood that they've lived there longer than both of us are alive. We got one guy that's in the neighborhood that's been there 65 years. Miss Shirley's been there for 50. So one of the lots, I'm not sure if it's the R4 or if it's the commercial. I don't know which one, and I wouldn't even try because I'd probably be wrong. One of them used to be a dump, and they filled it in with concrete and whatever else. Is there any are they gonna make them do any remediation or studies to see what's actually in the ground there before they start digging this up? I mean, this was probably the lesser of two evils, all right? He wanted to do R8 there, I didn't want Section 8 housing in my neighborhood. You know, subsidized housing, I really didn't want that. We have a really nice neighborhood, I love it. I literally moved from 213 to 212 a year ago. I bought the house across the street when I moved, because I wanted to stay in the neighborhood and I wanted to stay here. I could have moved into the city I work for, would have been a lot easier, especially for response, because I work for one of the public safety agencies. But I decided to stay here because I love it here. The ride into work sucks every day, I can tell you, because 21's horrible. Nothing we can do about that, state road. It is what it is. But I love it out here. I just think about what could be in your backyard, if it's your neighborhood. I understand it was zoned commercial, but when I looked it up, and I looked up code, that many storage warehouses weren't even in commercial. It took me digging to find it, that it was amended. It was shown in light industrial. We're talking about putting a mini storage warehouse in a neighborhood and dumping it out onto a residential street. We got mini storage warehouses on Fort Howard. We got more going up. And the gentleman who did it, Maupin Engineering or whoever that is, did an excellent job. He did it the right way. But we got one there. We got one right over here. We got one farther up by the U-Haul storage. Where do we think it was a good idea to dump one into a neighborhood and approve that? I mean, I called around to a bunch of the self-storage warehouses. There's room available at most of them. It isn't like there's this huge need for them. And then I read the code the way it states and what's allowed in there and what's not allowed in there. And I know Terry addressed that that would go to final site review and city council and P&Z and all that. My big thing is, I understand we're gonna grow. The city I work for is growing immensely. I mean, faster than I can imagine. The stuff that's been built since I've been there in the last 10 years just makes my head explode. Planned development, wise growth. I don't know where we thought that was a good idea to allow a mini storage, because it is a conditional use now in general commercial, where we thought that was a good idea to put it into a neighborhood. And then what happens, I got Pineland, I got Magnolia, and I got Myrtle that goes there. It's like a capital H. So what happens when one of them truck drivers comes out, doesn't want to go right back to or a Weisenbaker and goes down Myrtle and hits one of them kids on a bike or a big wheel or whatever, because I got a bunch of little kids running around my neighborhood.
Mhm.
I got 2 grandkids that are here that run, they're over by my house all the time running around.
Has this been approved?
No, it hasn't been approved, it got tabled last week, because we didn't have enough people to vote.
It came to Planning and Zoning Board on April 18th, and then it went to,
I wasn't here.
And let me give you another couple of minutes, and then we do have to wrap it up.
I'm done.
I don't wanna cut you short, but at the same time, you know, we wanna have your voice, but at the same time, I hear where you're coming from. And I do wanna mention this, we know that, and you'll see if you go back and look at our minutes and so forth in the past year or so, we know that we're in the process of trying to figure out how we can get the ordinances updated. As a matter of fact, you just mentioned it just a moment ago.
Right.
We're looking to, just to kind of give you guys some information of what's going on. They're trying to do what we can. It's a big project. You
Right.
can't just take the whole ordinance and say, okay, somebody's gonna sit down and overnight it gets changed. Or it gets updated, I should say.
Right.
It hasn't been updated regularly. We've actually made a recommendation to have a consultant come in to do that because it's too big of a project for
I get
us
it.
to handle piecemeal at a time.
Right.
In the past, I've done that. I've been here, I don't know how many years on this board, and we literally went through every single one. But that was our entire meeting, and it took literally probably a
Hours.
year and a half to do that, which takes a long time. So that's in the process, but you're right, it takes time. It's in the works. We don't have a consultant yet, but like we talked about, you gotta get money to do these things, you know, consultants aren't free. And Rincon, like you said, it's a great place to live because we don't charge taxes, and that's why we gotta be, you know, very diligent about the money, so.
But just like my suggestion though, and that's something that Terry could do, or that would work for her, is if something does get amended, highlight it in red. That way it stands out for the citizens, rather than trying to dig through it. I know, like I said, the municipality I work for, they highlight it in red. Amended, not yet codified, because they haven't paid to change it in municipal.
Yeah.
But
I'm
it's-
not sure why
it's
they do
red.
that. It may be confusing to other people when it's because sometimes if you see it in writing, you know, a lot of people think it's law, but
Right.
I understand what you're saying, and that could clarify some things and something to take into account when we get a guy on board to do all that.
And the only other question I have, and I'm gonna leave you guys alone for tonight,
Okay.
is when they did the conditional use, they put signs up in the properties.
Mhm.
Why does the signs have to go up before he even comes to zoning, or is it only before it goes to council? I couldn't find anything on that, that's why I'm asking.
it's before it goes to council because
Okay.
council holds the public hearing. In
Okay.
some communities, the public hearing's held at the planning commission or planning and zoning board. In our community, it's held at city council, so that's where the requirement is for the letters, the public notice in the paper, and then the signs to go up.
So
So
we get a lot
now
of
one
questions.
thing,
Sorry.
sorry, no, I was
didn't
gonna
mean to
say,
cut
one
you
thing
off.
that we have started doing though is, and I think it started after the Magnolia one, but what we've started doing is putting in the letters that go to the people within 300 feet is information about the planning and zoning board meeting as well, because before that it only had the public hearing at council information, because that's what's required, so we've added in that planning and zoning
And
That's a good
three
idea.
board
hundred
meeting
feet,
as well.
is it? That's the only neighbors that are affected is 300 feet?
It's
Well,
not,
that's
that's
what
what's,
the law is right now. I mean,
Mhm.
they can't send it out to the whole area, but that's what it is right
I
now.
know Ms. Mona was mentioned about, property values dropping. I said, that's storage warehouse or mini storage warehouse gonna tank my property value.
Believe me, we think about all that.
I thank you
Because
guys-
when you're
thank you
talking
for
about
listening to me.
What's in our neighborhood, you had mentioned that. It is in our neighborhood. We all live right here in Lincoln too. You can't be on this board unless you are a resident of Lincoln.
Right.
So, yeah, we all hear where you're coming from, for sure.
It's,
And
my
that's
big
what we
fear
try
is
to
this
keep.
public say, I don't want a kid dead. I do not want someone's kid.
One last thing about that, I was gonna say about the signage, we get a lot of questions about that, people say, oh, you stuck the sign there and it's being hidden. We have to place it in a spot that the most people can see it. Sometimes it's not exactly on the property, but we have to get it as on the property or right next to
It
the
was
property.
easily visible.
So we try to do that, but we get questions about that, people
Yeah.
say, oh, well, here or there, we do the best we can with that. Lolly is the one that usually is the one posting those signs. So she's pretty good about that too, but that's just one more thing that, we get sometimes complaints about. And believe me, we're not trying to hide anything. Everything is wide open and very transparent.
I am all about good, well-planned development, and I know our cities are gonna grow. the gentleman here with the meta plant, I mean, it's affecting the city I work for.
Mhm.
It's affecting 5-county region. It's a $5.5 billion initial investment.
Mhm.
I mean, it's huge. It's gonna affect everybody in 5 counties,
All right,
so.
we appreciate y'all's time, and like I said,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing me.
try to encourage other folks to be here.
Yes.
All the whole neighborhood will be here Monday.
Remind them that normally I don't give quite this much time. I have to limit it to, usually it says about 3 minutes or so.
Thank you.
3 or 4
I
minutes.
appreciate it.
Right.
You all have a good night.
Good
But we
night.
want to show the appreciation for you guys. I wanted to show the appreciation for you guys putting your input, so I appreciate y'all
Thank you
being
for your support.
All right,
Thank
good
you.
night.
All right, you guys have anything else that we need to? go
No, I'm
over?
just gonna pass this out. It's just, all you have to do is, how do you wanna be contacted? So when I'm reaching out to you about, hey, is there a quorum, or we may need to have a special meeting, just tell me phone, email, text, and put whatever that is. Like, write your phone number, or your email, or your, like, what number I should text you at.
That's a good idea too, because for me, I know you guys are using my AOL email. Yes, AOL. It still exists, okay? But anyways, unfortunately, because of this job that I'm doing now, this sits in my truck and I don't see it. And most of the time, if I don't think to fill it up, I don't have it. So yeah, I'll put a better way to reach me. I got another phone. As soon as I say that. But I have another phone that will be able to get me. Or, you know, you can always call me. And I'll give you another phone number to reach me, because normally this one is in my truck and I don't use it much anymore. But I know that's the number that you guys kind of use for me all the time. And it's really, I really should have changed that a while ago. But I'm finding I'm using this less and less and less. Because, so I'll give you the other one, but of course, it is a business phone and I'm not supposed to use it for personal use, but you can certainly give me a call.
But I will, however y'all want it, like, I'm not gonna, you know, call for reasons
Go
that
ahead and hand
aren't
them out so we can start.
appropriate, so.
Are you getting hungry?
But y'all can go ahead and,
I have to be at the airport at 4:45 in the morning, and I have not even packed.
So I
I
just want you to
know your
reread
agent,
all of that
I use-
stuff.
That is ugly, and
Now I'm
make
just
a
being
motion that was ugly.
But y'all can go ahead and adjourn, just.
Oh yeah, let's go ahead and adjourn.
I make
Motion,
I make a motion that we adjourn this marathon.
Are you gonna second it, Mona? Oh, yeah. All opposed?
That was an ugly one too.
Good, nobody's opposed. We're adjourned. All right. I wanted to give somebody like that a lot of time,